All right, hey everybody. Hope you made it here to part two. If you're seeing this and haven't seen part one, go to the very end of this and click in your top right hand corner, and that will take you to part one, and you can go through this. So, we're learning that when you go to hell, that there's a little cute girl and her dog that are going to meet you. And that, in fact, Old Norse version of Nicodemus, possibly translated under English influence, personifies hell in the neutral form of the Old Norse Pat Helvete. Pat meaning a father, though, figure like pater. And you ever wonder where Helvetica font comes from when you see words like Helvete? Vitae meaning life. Bartholomew's Saga. I was going to try to end it there early, and there's still a good amount to be said about this in itself, although you're probably getting the gist of the idea already. I just don't want to half-ass it and halfway finish, and man, this doesn't quite fit, does it? Is that going to fit better? Right there. Old Norse Bartholomew's Saga Pistola, an account for the life of Saint Bartholomew, dating from the 13th century, mentions a Queen Hell. A saint mentioning Queen Hell? Oh, what? Oh, you'll find a lot of that. But it's a shh. In the story, a devil is hiding with a pagan idol. Oh no, what's that? And bound by Bartholomew's spiritual powers to acknowledge himself and confess, the devil refers to Jesus as the one which made war on hell our queen, Old Norse heraldry, a hell drottning Vara. Queen of Hell is not mentioned elsewhere in the saga. Isn't that strange? Michael Bell says that while Hell might at first appear to be identical to the well-known pagan goddess of the Norse underworld, as described in chapter 34 of the Gylfaginning, in combined light of the Old English and Old Norse versions of Nicodemus, she casts quite a different shadow, and that Bartholomew's Saga Pistola, she is clearly the queen of the Christian, not pagan underworld. Is that so? Is that the way it works? Is Mother Mary there? Wasn't she just a girl and a virgin? Did she have a dog? Jacob Grimm, Brothers Grimm, theorized that Hel, whom he refers to as Helia, theorized proto-Germanic form of the term and is essentially an image of a greedy, unrestoring female deity, and that the higher we are allowed to penetrate into our antiquities, the less hellish and more godlike Hela may appear. Uh-oh. Or this, we have a particularly strong guarantee in her affinity of the Indian Bhavani. Uh-oh. Who travels about and bathes like Nethris and Hulda, the stories, but likewise called Kali, like you see in Indiana Jones, and Kalimar, and Mahakali, the great black goddess that they show, ching ching ching, of death and resurrection, black being shown in Ka statues in the ancient Caucasian Egyptians, Osiris, the god of rebirth, grow green again, springtime. In the underworld, she is supposed to sit in judgment for the souls. This office is the similar name and the black hue make her exceedingly like Helia, and Helia is one of the oldest and commonest conceptions of our heathenism. What? Can't put both of those together, can you guys? Can't call it heathen pagan and then say it's the same. Can you? Grimm theorized that the Hellhest, a three-legged horse that roams the countryside, swing, is a harbinger of plague and pestilence. Horses, harbinger of plague and pestilence. Four horsemen. Listen, in Danish folklore, Dan, tribe of Dan, I'll be damned. Its original is the steed of the goddess Hel, and that this steed Hel roamed the land, picking up the dead that were her due. In addition, Grimm says that a wagon was once ascribed to Hel, with which Hel made journeys. How about that? Grimm says that Hel is an example of a half goddess, one who cannot be shown to either be a wife or a daughter of a god, and who stands on an independent or a dependent relation to higher divinities. That of a half goddess stand higher than half gods in German mythology, and these half gods and demigods and all of this type situation. And what Hilda Ellis Davidson, 1948, states that Hel as a goddess in surviving sources seems to belong to a genre of literary personification, that the word Hel is generally used or simply signify death of the grave, and that the word often appears as the equivalent to the English death, which Davidson states naturally lends itself to a personification by poets. Davidson explains that whether this personification has originally been based on a belief in a goddess of death called Hel is another question, but no, it's not really. But that she does not believe that surviving sources give any reason to believe so. Davidson adds, on the other hand, that various other examples of certain supernatural women connected with death are bound to be found in sources from Norse mythology, that they seem to have been closely connected with the world of the dead, and were pictured as welcoming dead warriors into Valhalla, say, and the depiction of Hel as a goddess in Gylfaginning might well owe something to these. In later work, 1998, Davidson states that description of Hel found in chapter 33 of Gylfaginning hard suggests a goddess. Davidson adds that yet this is not the impression given by the account of Hermod's ride in Hel later in Gylfaginning 49, and points out there Hel speaks with an authority as a ruler of the underworld, and that from her realm gifts are sent back to Frigg and Fulla by Baldur's wife Nanna. Now, Nanna is a name that goes all the way into Sumerians. Nanna, the ancient goddess. This was the birth wife, the handmaiden of the people that Enki said whenever they made humanity was there, and she was the one that helped to care for him and stuff in a way. Of course, there are about 4 twists of that going through the time and things, and she's left out of it, but other things keep it in there with Nanar Sin. And she's a personification of the moon. Women go on moon cycles, and maybe people can see a connection, and there's more, but I'll just go ahead and go on. Davidson posits that Snorri may have earlier turned the goddess of death into an allegorical figure, just as he made Hel the underworld of shades. And this is where people become shadows, and the idea of a ghost that you can see through, and ethereal and so on, a place where wicked men go, like the Christian hell. Davidson continues that. And so people had this belief that you're trapped on you don't go into the light, and you're trapped on the earth and all this type of stuff, right? And people say, well, you don't go into the light. And other people go, no, you go into the light and everything. Well, that's what we were searching, is going into the light. There are people who believe that when you go into the light, you actually become light. You go into the sun itself and then become emitted out and become an energy to the world and get reborn into things like that. That's a kind of neat story. And it may not necessarily fit with this, oh, we get to live forever and a da-da-da-da-da, but something more neat about it too. On the other hand, a goddess of death who represents the horrors of slaughter and decay is something well known elsewhere. The figure of Kali in India is an outstanding example. You know, people can turn into light, and they can form different colors and shades of light. You can end up forming a rainbow that takes the other new people to the land of the dead. Like Snorri's Hel, she is terrifying in appearance, black or dark in color, usually naked, adorned with severed heads or arms of the corpses of children. Her lips smeared with blood, she haunts the battlefield or cremation ground and squats on corpses, sucking out their life and taking their, souls with them. Yet for all this, she is the recipient of ardent devotion from the countless devotees who approach her as their mother. Well, hell can be a bad thing, and you can turn around and make it into a wicked, wicked thing. And if you want to, in your mind, you can make up a devil. And you can throw that on there. And because she doesn't let everybody come back from the dead and do all these neato things, she's a bad person. And so she keeps the skulls of the kids, and she won't let them come back, and she does this and she does that. Next thing you know, you make a hellish picture out of somebody that isn't necessarily with the reality of the way things go. Because the way things go in these stories doesn't relate to that idea that, yep, yeah, if you cry enough, your kid will come back from the dead. And this isn't Pet Cemetery, where people can be reborn in that way into an undead state that never looks out to be a good possibility, does it, people? Would you want to live as a zombie or an undead? John Lindau states that most details about hell as a figure are not found outside of Snorri's writing in Gylfaginning, and says that when older skaldic poetry says that people are in rather than with hell, we are clearly dealing with a place rather than a person, and this is assumed to be the older conception. That the noun and place hell likely originally simply meant grave, and that the personification came later. She also draws a parallel between the personification hell's banishment to the underworld and binding of Fenrir as a part of the recurring theme of the bound monster. Just like Satan is bound by chains and darters, where an enemy of the gods is bound but destined to break free at Ragnarok. No, doesn't that sound familiar? Breathe in and out. Rudolf Simek theorizes that the figure of hell is probably a very late personification of the underworld hell, and says that the first scriptures using the goddess Hel are found at the end of the 10th and 11th centuries. Simek states that the allegorical description of hell's house in Gylfaginning clearly stands in the Christian tradition. What? Saying it's the same, and that on the whole nothing speaks in favor of there being a belief in hell in pre-Christian times. What? No, there is definite showing of that, and all of these other people, and all the things we've talked about, but whatever this guy said. However, Simek also cites hell as possibly appearing as one of 3 figures appearing together on Migration Period B Bracteates. So, after his wants and the way he wants it to work out, he coincides that, yeah, these migration people brought that here and that concept and that thing, and so what's that got to do with it? What's that got to do with hell? Well, people, I'm here to tell you that there was a belief in this whole idea of a lot of women deities and things that go in there, and this rebirth thing goes a lot with them, this death and this thing. In fact, people tell you in the Catholic tradition that you're supposed to pray to Mary because Jesus is a little stiff, and that she's a little more forgiving because she's a mother and has that compassion. Whenever you plead in the afterlife, I see a woman here just holding a snake, pointing to a goddess carrying fruit and the ambrosia of life that she won't give out. She's not allowed to. She's only allowed to give it at the time of Ragnarok. She's been given a bowl. She's been given the chalice. She's been given the Holy Grail to pass out, to be drank out of at the end of time. Hopefully this clears some things up for some people, and where the hell all this comes from and what the hell people have been talking about forever. Because you can turn it into a bunch of weird things, and there are weird stories, even included in the Bible, which describe things that look like a zombie. And hellhounds, which may have been just a companion of a girl that went to hell long ago, or heaven long ago, and is there now as an escort to escort us all across the Rainbow Bridge into the afterlife. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. And we'll get on to another topic, trying to stay a little bit more in the Celtic region and tie it back into these Proto-Indo-Europeans. Enjoy. Peace.